Alright guys, time for another Christian's Cult Classics this week, and today we're talking about the Chuck Russell 1988, The Blob. Okay, so The Blob, when it comes to remakes, a couple movies come to mind of my favorite remakes of all time. The Fly, The Thing, and The Blob. Do we see a pattern there? I wonder why these are some of the best remakes ever. I think the reason that movies like The Blob and The Thing are considered some of the best remakes is because their predecessors were at the most primitive time of horror movies. They were doing effects back then in the 50s and 60s, and they're very charming, and they were very, very creative. By the time the 1980s came around, you were able to do things with prosthetic makeup effects that would just blow people's minds. Till this day, movies like The Blob, when you watch it, CGI just doesn't touch it. Chuck Russell is known for doing some great stuff. Obviously, Dream Warriors, The Mask, and in fact, The Blob. The Blob was a movie that, for some reason, I think a lot of horror fans were like this. It just wasn't a movie that you instantly went to go find. The Blob is a movie you finally just kind of come across. I know I did. I finally came across the Blob remake, and I was like, oh, I hadn't seen it. Let me give it a shot. And it was one of those movies when you put it on, you're like, oh my goodness, this movie was freaking incredible. It was interesting seeing Shawnee Smith in this that I know from the Saw movies, and it was like, wow, because she seemed so young in the first couple Saw movies, and then I saw her in this, and she looked really young. She was probably 18 or 19 or so when she did this movie, but she was great in the movie. I loved Shawnee Smith in the film. One of the greatest scenes in this movie, I know we're going to bring this up, is the boyfriend is taking her out on that date, and they end up at the hospital, and then she goes into that room where the Blob falls on him, and then you see him desperately reaching to get out. That image haunts my dreams till this day. It's kind of interesting that Chuck Russell did this movie because it doesn't seem like him. I don't know. It doesn't seem like that would have been the movie he would have done coming out of, the Dream Warriors. The Dream Warriors, the most creative and just insane horror movie at the time. The Dream Warriors did things that was incredible. And then Chuck Russell goes to doing a movie about basically just moving bowl of jello. I don't know, it's crazy, but he took it and made it absolutely fantastic. I mean, look at the artwork right here. I think what's also great about Chuck Russell movies is he always has great dialogue and great characters in his movie. Dialogue in his movies, they just seem the most natural to me. I don't know. He did great stuff in Dream Warriors. He did great stuff in The Blob. I liked all the characters. I liked the bad boy in this. I liked Shawnee Smith in this. I liked the pharmaceutical guy, which he looked very familiar. The guy who was like ribbed or regular. I can't remember where else I've seen that guy from, but I've seen him in a bunch of movies. I think he was in Cobra and other movies like that. But basically, The Blob is a special effects makeup extravaganza. It's really just a fantastic 80s horror movie. The best of the horror movies, the best of these kinds of horror movies is a movie like The Blob. There's really not a complaint to have about the movie, and sure, it's definitely one of the best horror remakes out there, clearly. The Blob is another movie. I've never heard a bad thing said about it, and I think it's for a reason. It's because Chuck Russell just simply knows what he's doing. I think Chuck Russell is a fan favorite among horror fans as well as far as directing goes. The guy knows what he wants to get on screen, and he gets it. I give a lot of credit to Chuck for doing this movie because, like I said earlier, it just didn't seem like it was going to be in his wheelhouse of things to do. He kind of seemed like he was really going to do more experimental type horror, but I guess in a sense, this could be considered, experimental type horror. So I'll keep it short, I'll keep it sweet. If you have not seen The Blob, 1988, you're going to love it. I can almost put a guarantee stamp on it. You're going to love The Blob. And this is the Laserdisc, as you can see, which is a great way to watch this movie if you're into that sort of thing. The Blob remake, that's something we need on Scream Factory or Arrow. I don't know if it's been released yet, but we need a special edition of The Blob, and we need to see Chuck Russell talk about this movie. So there it is, guys, The Blob. I'll end it there. One of the greatest horror remakes ever made. Please be sure to subscribe if you have not yet. Hit the bell so you don't miss these Christian Cult Classic videos just like this, where we talk about great classic horror movies. Also, check the description for my Teespring and other great stuff like that. Until next time, we'll see you guys later. What's that over there?